Who would have ever thought that we would have yet another MLS Cup final between Toronto FC and the Seattle Sounders for the third time in 4 years? These teams pulling off the unthinkable is just proving that these two are just destined for each other. Now remember, the first one in 2016 had no goals on a very cold night in Toronto and was decided in the shootout, where Seattle wanted to complete their turnaround season. So Toronto wanted it so bad and Seattle was back to defend their cup the next year, but TFC would get our revenge completing our perfect season. So after both teams won their first championships, it is absolutely perfect that we meet in our third final against one another, because it only makes sense that we would have a rubber match to decide it, right? And it's only fitting that Seattle gets to host round 3 after Toronto hosted the first 2 rounds. Now quite a bit has changed after our first 2 finals meetings. For Seattle, of course, captains Clint Dempsey retired, and Ozzie Alonso has moved on to Minnesota. Center back Chad Marshall retired earlier this year, but they picked up their new striker, the dangerous Raul Ruidiaz, and added Kim Ki-hee as a staple in the backline. And for Toronto, of course, the selling of both Sebastian Jovinko and Victor Vasquez. Fullback Steven Beitashour, who started both finals, moved on to LAFC, but now we have a ton of new pieces in Alejandro Pozuelo, Nicolas Benezet, and Laurent Simon, as well as Omar Gonzalez, and of course super sub Nick De Leon. Tsubasa Endo, who was on the bench in the first one, then just a reserve for the second, has worked his way to the starting lineup in this one. So how did they pull it off to even get to this stage though? Because it surely wasn't easy with the new one-game knockout format. Both teams had a scare in round 1 where they had to win in extra time. Seattle had a seesaw battle with FC Dallas but would come away 4-3. Toronto had a 1-0 lead but lost it in stoppage time, but would explode with 4 goals in the first half of extra time. Then in the conference semifinals, Seattle had a solid match, giving Real Salt Lake no chance, winning 2-0. Toronto, with a visit to New York City, had to chip away, and came out with a 2-1 win thanks to Alejandro Pozuelo. And in the most hostile territories of them all, Seattle showed up against the Supporters' Shield winners LAFC, even though giving up the first goal. The Sounders came up with 2 quick goals to take the lead, and the third by Raul Ruidiaz would make it too much as they won 3-1. And the same with Toronto, looked vulnerable defending the counterattacks in the early going, but quickly answered back after a massive penalty save, then locked in with solid defending, and eventually found the game-winning goal thanks to Nick De Leon with a screamer. And so that sets up our deciding match of our rivalry. And TFC came out dealing in this one, absolutely dominating possession the whole first half, and did a lot better handling counterattacks too, but just couldn't really find any big chances though. So a dozen minutes into the second half, Seattle would break the deadlock, from a shot by Kevin Leardon that takes a deflection and redirected into the net. And that would open the gates as 10 minutes later, the substitute Victor Rodriguez strikes one in between the center backs, past the outstretched Glenn Westberg and into the bottom corner. As if the crowd hasn't gone crazy enough, Raul Ruidiaz pots in one of his own in the 90th minute, winning a battle for the 50-50 ball. TFC would get one back at least from Josie Altidor's header in stoppage time, but that was far too late, as the Seattle Sounders are MLS Cup champions once again over Toronto FC in a 3-1 victory. So congratulations to the Seattle Sounders on winning the 2019 MLS Cup, as the MLS Cup MVP goes to Victor Rodriguez, who scored the game-winning goal. So I gotta say, Seattle, you guys are a great rival. I mean, from all the matches of this MLS Cup trilogy, you guys scored 3 goals, we scored 3 goals. We have the away goal, you guys have the penalty kicks. We celebrated 1 at home, now you guys celebrate 1 at home. So what a story, what a rivalry. And yo, I ain't even mad though, because at the beginning of the season, who would have thought that we'd be in the Cup final at the end of it? Especially with all the turnover and a new manager, then a slow start, to the 13-game unbeaten run to the Cup game. Let me tell you, no one saw that coming back in March. So don't hang your heads, TFC fans. Because remember what happened after the last time we lost the MLS Cup? We came back the next year and won the treble. And in the words of Alejandro Pozuelo, we have a fucking good team. I'm sorry, I just had to say it. So thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you'll tune in to the next episode.